For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's Tuesday practice of Colorado Week. Now the Trojans returned to Howard Jones Field in full pads, but we saw some new wrinkles at practice today, and it was a longer practice than we're used to seeing, Shotgun.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty late here already for us, but it's because they were installing some new stuff. They also did some, new drills, not necessarily new, but, hadn't seen them since fall camp. Some ones versus ones, with their speed ball drill they do early in practice with a hurry up. And then late in practice, there were some ones versus ones, offense versus defense. So I think that they were trying to add some more competitive periods in there while having a slower practice. So when you are taking a little bit more time to install and go over stuff and scout team, then you want to ratchet up that competition at different times as well. And I think they were doing that. So I think that's why it ran a little bit longer today.
And how much of that is impacted by losing against Oregon State?
I feel like when you lose and you get blown out at home, and obviously there was a big change the last time they were blown out. Hey, you got to make some changes. You can't just say, well, we'll just fix a couple things and it'll be better. No, you got blown out, so you got to make some adjustments. You got to make some changes. I think that's what they were trying to do. Saw some different things, and Dante even said that we're going to try some different things out and see how it kind of shakes out and go from there.
Now, Tuesday marked the first time that we were actually able to see Jackson Dart at practice, at least the practices that we can attend. He wasn't in attendance last week. He had that brace that we saw on Saturday on his knee. What other important injury updates did we see?
I think the biggest one is USC's been really lacking the meat in the middle of their defensive line. They need some nose tackle help, and Ishmael Shafshur was back today in full pads and in cleats. Now, he didn't do teamwork, and we'll see if he can progress from here, but I think that's a positive sign for them going forward. So him getting some individual work and getting out there and doing some things there. We saw Kyle Ford come back and do some individual work but didn't participate in the team stuff. Michael Trigg, who left the game on Saturday, he was back and was a full participant. Same thing with Drake London, who has been banged up a little bit. Isaac Taylor Stewart did not practice today, and that's one of concern. He didn't play in the second half at all, so we'll see where he's at. Same thing with Chris Thompson Jr. He didn't play in Saturday's game, did not dress out, and he was dressed out today but did not participate at all. So those are a couple of guys that definitely stood out because those are playmakers. Those are guys playmakers on both sides of the ball. USC needs as many playmakers on the field as they can get.
Speaking of playmakers, who you mentioned, Michael Trigg, he's a guy whose name kept popping up in interviews after practice today, and offensive coordinator Graham Harrell said he's on the up and up, and we saw that on Saturday.
Yeah, Graham Harrell mentioned that he had a great week of practice last week, and that's why he got some extra opportunities in the game. I talked with tight ends, inside receivers coach Seth Dagey was really high on Trigg. I asked him, is Trigg going to be an inline tight end eventually? And he said that's what they're working towards. The same thing with Malcolm Epps. They want those guys to be able to block, and that way, if they want to go with a hurry-up offense or something, they can move them inside, not just always have them slotted out. But he said Michael Trigg is making steps every time that they're out on the field, and said he's picking up things more and more. And somebody asked him, what about, how has he dealt with not getting a ton of playing time? He said, did you notice when Eric Cromenhook caught that touchdown against San Jose State? Did you notice when Joseph Manjack caught that ball for a 42-yard gain against Washington State? Both those times, the play was initially designed to go to Michael Trigg, trying to get him a touch. They said the defense, with the look they got, they flipped the formation there on those two plays and ended up throwing it to the other side. But he said, notice who's the first person to get down and congratulate Eric Cromenhook. The happiest guy on the field is Michael Trigg, and they said that's the energy he's bringing every day, and that's one of the guys. He's making a lot of strides, and they're looking forward to what he can continue to bring to the team. So he's a guy to definitely keep an eye on. I think that he's only going to continue to get better as he learns the playbook better, as he learns the blocking side of it a little bit better as well. Saw a great block from him on Saturday, and if he can continue to do that, he's a guy by the end of the year, he might be the starter and the guy taking 90% of the reps at tight end.
Now, I got to talk to Clay McGuire today, and he was very critical of USC's offensive line performance against Washington State, but seemed pleased by what they were able to do against Oregon State. He said that probably was their best run game performance that they've had all season, and we actually heard that from multiple coaches today. Yeah,
Dante Williams mentioned it in his media availability. When I talked to Dagey, he said the same thing. He said the tight ends blocked the best that he had seen them this season, and he said they're taking some strides there, and I think that's a really important thing because the offensive line outside of the Washington State game has done a pretty good job, and at times, whether whether it be the wide receivers or the tight ends, are not holding that block, not getting to the second level, getting that block, so that run that could potentially be a 15-yard run is a 5 or 6 yard run. So if they can get everyone on the same page, and that's one of the big things, getting everybody on the same page. That was something else that I talked with Seth Dagey a couple of times. We've seen the tight ends the last couple of games, breaking one way or the other, and the quarterback throwing to the opposite side, just not on the same page there. And he said it's just more and more reps. The more reps they can get at practice is, how they can combat that. And, hopefully they can get on the same page there, and that'll be the small details that Graham Harrell talked about being what is keeping them from kind of taking off on the offensive side. But that's kind of been the theme for a while now. So, how long is it going to take? Can they expedite that with a quickness? Because some very important games coming up with Colorado and Utah, Pac-12 South opponents in the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Well, another one of those key details is just drop balls that we saw. We asked Kerry Colbert, USC's wide receivers coach, about that, specifically Taj Washington's drop balls, but he said, he's not worried about it. That happens to any wide receiver, and they said he's already moved on from that.
Yeah, he said Taj Washington's moved on, but he also said that earlier today, he was in the offices or whatever it was, and he had Taj Washington in and said, here, he sent him some clips or whatever it was from wide receivers in the NFL, some of the best wide receivers, clips of them dropping balls, and said, hey, look, it happens to everyone. Let's move past it and move forward. So he's a guy that's got to play a little bit better. Drake London's had some drops. He's obviously done everything else for USC, but you want to just eliminate them as much as possible as you can. Help your quarterback out. Help your offense out as much as possible. And wide receivers, there's the word receiver in there. So let's receive the ball and make those catches, and we'll see if they can continue to improve on that. That's an area they definitely got to clean up.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Drake London, you got to talk to him today. It sounds like he's channeling some of his basketball skills out there on the field.
Yeah, I asked him what's the mentality getting those one-on-one opportunities, because we talked a little bit about the transition to the X-receiver, the outside guy from being inside his first 2 seasons. He said the transition's going really well. He said obviously he'd done it in high school. And I said, well, what about when you get that one-on-one matchup and it's that jump ball? He said, I feel like I got to go dunk on them. And, not just go up and I got to catch it over. I got to dunk on them. He said using that basketball background, going up and making a big play, and that's what he's done a ton of this season. He's taken a lot of wear and tear so far this season, so there were several questions about that. Yeah. And he said, someone asked him about the punishment he's taken, and he said, I don't even see it as punishment. I'm the one delivering the punishment to the other team. He said that's what I want them to feel me when they try to tackle me and not want to come back for that next tackle. So he's definitely been a guy that has made a ton of moves, and he's making those cornerbacks, those smaller cornerbacks, feel him. That's why there's 2 and 3 guys trying to wrap him up almost every time he catches the ball.
Mm-hmm. Now, overall, Shotgun, I feel like the mood from the interviews are positive. They see steps forward. Is that what you expect after a loss that we saw on Saturday?
I think there were a lot of things that the offense can take away that could be positives. If we just fix this, we just fix that, but they've got to make those changes. It's enough time, 4 weeks in now, it's enough time saying woulda, coulda, shouldas. Yeah. They've got to make those steps, and I think they feel like they're on the cusp of it, and I think that's where the positivity is coming from. They feel like they just get those couple things fixed, then they're ready to break out. I think on the defensive side, it'll be interesting to hear what we hear from the interviews tomorrow and how they've reacted to last week's game. It was a much more demoralizing loss, the way that the defense performed versus the offense, feeling like they ran the ball well, and a lot of them said that, and they just felt like they had to change the game plan late because they were falling behind, which I think they may have went to the pass a little too early, could have stuck with the run a little bit more, but we'll see how it progresses this week, going to Colorado, going on the road, another early game, early travel, trying to get in and get settled. How does the offense come out? Does it take them a little while like it did at Washington State, or can they get rolling from the get-go? Yeah.
Alrighty, Shotgun, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I think one of the most interesting things from Drake London was asking him about, a couple times the last couple games, his helmet has come off. He's got the tongue wagging. He's got the wide eyes.
Can we give an example?
We will not give an example here. Maybe you can clip that in if you'd like.
Sure.
But asked him about it. He said, it just happened. He's not even thinking about it. But he said, I just got to let them know that I'm the boss, basically. He said, got to let those DBs know that, their hits aren't affecting me. I'm going to continue to make big plays, and that's what he's done all season so far.
It almost sounded like an out-of-body experience for him because he was like, honestly, I don't know what I did. I just did it. So.
It just happened, So.
Hey, when you're a beast on the field, you do what you want, I guess.
Sometimes the beast comes out when they take that helmet off. Sure. So, maybe that's what it is. Yeah. And he's performed admirably this season. Has been outstanding. Now let's see if some of those other pieces around him, if they can get Michael Trigg the ball like he was able to last week, and we'll see if that offense makes some baby steps last week, Can they take a big jump this week against Colorado, which has a very good defense, a veteran defense, and one that's going to be a challenge for them? If they can put some points up, Colorado is going to struggle scoring points or has struggled scoring points this season, so they can put a lot of pressure on that Colorado offense.
Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for USC's Tuesday practice of Colorado Week. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.